All right, let's jump right into this explainer and learn how to transform chaotic IT escalations into structured, actionable messages the developers will actually prioritize, and more importantly, actually read. If you're working in IT support, you definitely know the exact pain point we're tackling today. You've been grinding away at an issue, you finally escalate a super detailed ticket to the engineering team, and then crickets. You get left on red, or they just skip right past it while your systems remain totally down. Well, today, we're going to fix that by learning exactly how to write an escalation message that developers absolutely cannot ignore.
Now, you might be wondering, why do developers ignore these carefully crafted tickets in the first place? If you've ever felt that frustration, I promise it's usually not because the developers don't care. It's because they are completely overwhelmed by unstructured walls of text during high-stakes incidents. Just picture a developer during a major incident. It's 2 in the morning, their pager is going off, alarms are literally blaring, they're desperately trying to stabilize the server, and suddenly, boom, they receive a massive, rambling paragraph from the support desk. When they see that unstructured wall of text, they experience immediate cognitive overload. In real IT environments, incident management prioritizes fast stabilization. Deep analysis? That has to come later. They simply do not have the time to hunt for the actual problem hidden in a massive block of text.
And this slide right here brilliantly illustrates the difference. We're looking at a panicked, emotion-driven message on one side that, let's be honest, is definitely getting skipped. On the other side, we have a crisp, read-on-arrival directive that immediately establishes the operational picture. When a developer receives an escalation screaming, "Stuff is broken," and users are mad, it's purely emotional. It lacks specific details and ultimately just adds to the panic. But when they receive a crisp directive identifying a specific 5x error for EU users, it cuts right through all that noise. It isolates the exact error, the affected region, and the specific action requested, all in just a few seconds.
Moving into Section 1, the SBR framework, from submarines to IT incident management.
So to bridge this communication gap we've been talking about, we are going to borrow a really powerful rescue tool. This was originally developed by the US Navy for nuclear submarines, later adopted by hospitals, and is now perfectly adapted for enterprise IT support. Just think about that for a second. The exact same communication protocol used to prevent catastrophic nuclear submarine disasters is what we are going to use to fix server outages. The crucial point here is that SBAR gives you a shared, structured language to communicate really complex information quickly under immense pressure. It stands for situation, background, assessment, and recommendation. When everyone speaks this exact same language, it reduces ambiguity, cuts down on all the second-guessing, and dramatically accelerates decision-making. Basically, you stop making noise and you start delivering intelligence.
Let's break down how this builds directly into the anatomy of a great IT escalation message, translating that SBAR acronym into 4 very actionable steps that give developers exactly the context they need. Step 1, the situation. This is your impact, the headline of what is failing right now. Step 2, the background. That's your timeline and the actions you've already tried. Step 3, your assessment. This is the suspected cause based on the data you're actually seeing. And finally, Step 4, the recommendation. This is the exact requested action. Now, this last step is absolutely critical. Developers shouldn't have to guess what you need from them. By explicitly stating what action needs to be taken, you pull the incident right out of the investigation phase and push it straight into resolution.
Section 2. Precision technical vocabulary. Words that build trust and clarity.
But hey, structure alone isn't quite enough, right? We need to pair it with precise technical English. Think of it like acting as a senior colleague to eliminate those clunky direct translation errors and soften up any abrupt tones. Now, what's really interesting here is how swapping vague or grammatically incorrect phrases for high-value technical verbs is a total game changer for your professional credibility. Especially for non-native English speakers, direct translations can sometimes cause unnecessary friction. For example, instead of saying, "please revert back," which technically means to return to a previous state, just use reply or respond. And please, never say "stuff is broken." Actually, scratch that, burn that phrase from your vocabulary. It's the one thing guaranteed to make an engineer sigh and rub their temples. Instead, ask them to investigate a specific anomaly. When an update fails, don't say "undo the change," ask for a rollback. Instead of "put it live," say "deploy." These feel like tiny adjustments, but they fundamentally change how your expertise is perceived and completely remove cognitive overload for whoever is reading it.
You also really want to avoid treating your escalation emails like formal documentation. I mean, listen to this sentence. Regarding the issue which we discussed in the previous meeting and which was related to the API timeout problem that occurred last week, wow, that is just completely exhausting to process during an outage.
By chopping down those long, winding, complicated sentences into concise phrasing, you ensure the reader actually finishes the sentence without losing their train of thought. Aim for simple, punchy paragraphs of just 3 to 5 sentences. Keep it simple, keep it direct, and keep it actionable.
All right, Section 3, Before and After Rewrite, the Slack Escalation Makeover.
Let's see this in action and watch a super vague Slack escalation transform into a structured SBAR request using our shiny new technical vocabulary. On the left, this vague, emotional message complains about the payment thing, mentions some users, and asks, can someone revert back? It completely lacks ownership and scope. Contrast that with the SBAR rewrite on the right. The situation is clearly stated. EU users unable to complete payments. The background. Third report today, started after the billing update. The assessment, suspect the new release is causing timeouts. And the exact recommendation, temporarily disable the update. It's clean, it's precise, and an engineer can act on it the literal second they read it. And you know what the best part is? You absolutely do not need any fancy tools, expensive incident management software, or complex ticketing systems to do this. A simple text editor or a standard Slack message formatted exactly this way works perfectly to grab their attention.
Section 4. Escalate like a pro. Live scenario payment processing timeout.
For our final scenario, let's apply this framework live to a simulated high-stakes infrastructure failure detected by our monitoring tools. Imagine this. You're staring at your Grafana and Sentry dashboards, and you see this exact cascade of events threatening your e-commerce checkout system. At 25 minutes past midnight, a heavy reporting query starts. Just 5 minutes later, the primary database CPU hits 95% and checkout latency immediately spikes to 2 seconds. 3 minutes after that, you need to trigger an escalation. The tension is incredibly high, the clock is ticking loudly in your ear, and real revenue is literally dropping every single second this system is struggling.
So instead of panicking, you combine that exact timeline with our technical verbs, and you construct this crisp, 4-bullet SBAR message. You clearly define the impact on the checkout service. You provide the exact timestamps and query IDs for context. And here is where the payoff really happens. By seamlessly connecting your assessment to your recommendation, you hand the Tier 3 database administrator exactly what they need to terminate the query and save the day. You're basically handing them a fully prepared investigation on a silver platter. This highly structured 4-bullet message is literally the difference between a simple 5-minute fix and a painful 2-hour prolonged outage where everyone is scrambling to figure out what went wrong.
Which brings us to our final takeaway for this explainer. Clarity is undeniably more valuable than perfect grammar in technical writing. You don't need to be a poet. You just need to be precise. SBAR and technical vocabulary are your ultimate tools for achieving that precision. So think about this. If the simple framework like SBAR can cut incident response times in half and get engineering to actually read your escalations, what other hidden communication bottlenecks are secretly costing your IT department thousands of dollars a minute?